participation in the ocean and climate.
Thank you so much. A pleasure to have you on board. Mr. Michael Aswani.
Thank you. My name is Michael Aswani. I'm a PhD student at the University of Nairobi, Department of Diplomas and International Studies, and I'm also just a scholar who finished a study at the United States, the Institute for U.S. Institutes on U.S. Economics and Sustainable Development, 3-month course, which I finished recently from the city of Boston in Massachusetts. I'm also researching on issues of emerging technologies and resilience in urban ecosystems in African cities.
All right, Dr. Claude Kabemba. Can you hear us, Claude? All right, maybe...
The Southern Africa Resource Watch. Okay. This is the only outfit on the African continent that invests purely in the governance of natural resources. So I will be speaking around the issue of why Africa is the last frontier of critical minerals, yet Africa seems to be not benefiting from its own minerals that it should. Looking at the structural market trade policy, but also building in the African agency and why we should be working together to promote Africa interests.
Thank you so much, Dr. Claude. Now, as we think about the energy, mineral, resource, livelihood nexus, one of the things that comes out is resource-based conflicts, and we are about to get into one here. Those who had morning sessions were not good custodians of time, so now we are really squeezed for time. So we are going to try and minimize the conflict by trying to be a little bit more responsible with the time. When you are given your session, please, we will time you so that we are able to make and get the best value of time out of the short time we have and the wide range of issues that we need to explore. So when it comes to you, we have allocated 5-minute sessions. I would be really happy if you can use 3.5 or 4 minutes max for your session. And to be able to do this, since I cannot manage the time, my co-panelists are going to become co-timekeepers. So for Dr. Paul Mukoki, your timekeeper is Linda Valerie. You cannot go beyond 5 minutes. At the exact expiry of your 5 minutes is starting now, we will cut you off. Let us go. Thank you. Dr. Paul Mukoki, you have 4.5 minutes, if I'm not wrong. I think you'd rather speak through your presentation, Paul. If the technical team is having a challenge in projecting your presentation, you might as well make good use of your time by beginning just to run your talk. Oh, okay. All right, go ahead and make it quick. Paul, are you there? You are muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, yes, sorry for that. Okay, yeah, I'm saying I'm going to talk about Africa's climate and energy challenges. Africa faces a unique challenges due to climate change and energy scarcity, impacting everything from livelihood to political stability. So through my presentation, I'll explore the climate energy context in Africa. I'll also go up to discussing the call for action.
Doc, we may have to skip your session if you don't get very organized. You have 3 minutes and you are muted again. I don't know how you are going to do this in 3 minutes, but it will be 3 minutes for real. Get on. Dr. Paul Mukoki, we cannot hear you. You're muted again. Is all well? Paul, we have skipped you, so please just hold on. If we get a minute at the end of this session, you'll be given a chance to make your presentation. For now, we move on to Linda. Linda, now I have 2 questions for you, which I want you to address within, if possible, less than 5 minutes. The first question is, what is the status of knowledge and information on climate change, energy transition, and critical minerals? How is it affecting development as well as geopolitical policy and practices? Focus on Africa. Number 2, who are the main players in these value chains and where are the African voices in this discourse? Again, focus on Africa. Thank you.
So regarding the first question that you asked about what is the current status of climate change knowledge production, I would say regarding the African context, I would actually say we are becoming leaders and innovators in the space of climate change knowledge production, because a lot of time the way that the curricula of environmental sciences or even other disciplines that are not necessarily geography or climate based, they tend to be overarching, and now it is included in multiple spaces and spheres. It's no longer a space where it's only confined to one space. For example, all the panelists here are from different disciplines or different backgrounds, and we have different vantage points from which we are now looking at the aspect of climate change. So this allows us to actually improve how we are producing knowledge and producing knowledge from our own perspective rather than a perspective that is from outside looking in. So I would say the current state is, I wouldn't say it's perfect, I wouldn't say it's good, but I would say we are on our way there in this discipline in regard of climate change and understanding thereof.
2 questions, 2 follow-up questions. 1, if we are looking for this knowledge and information, where do we find it? And do you see it shaping policy and practice?
Regarding where we find it, I would say that is the space where we are lacking. A lot of times, as mentioned by multiple speakers today, it tends to be in the library. It tends to be loaded with technical jargon. It tends to be in a space where people who are not well versed in the field or well versed in concepts of sustainability, SDGs, they feel as though a lot of the content is foreign to them and they are not able to truly understand it. But also regarding how it frames policies, that it seems to be the words that are in vogue. Everyone wants to invoke the idea of sustainability.
We really can't follow what our panelists are saying, so it will be difficult for us to speak with a correct approach. Is it possible to fix the sound?
Okay, our tech team has had the comment. Let's carry on. Try sort us out on that. Is it an issue of the mics? Is it an issue of... It's not the mics. It's from their side. No, but muting does not stop you from hearing. It stops you from talking. Unless I'm getting the technology wrong. I think you just check the systems, try troubleshoot the sound system, please. All right.
Yes, so going forward, I would say a lot of policy these days is focused towards the idea of sustainability. Everyone wants to use it as a keyword. It's popular, it's trendy. All the politicians are trying to make themselves sustainable, whether it's in economic ministries, education ministries, everyone is trying to incorporate more sustainable thinking. So I would say it's becoming something that is influencing how policy is made, but I wouldn't say it's influencing how policy is implemented.
All right. Finally, who are the main players in energy, critical minerals, climate change, globally and within Africa? And where are the African voices in this discourse?
So fortunately, with the previous panel that spoke about the Belt and Road Initiative, I'd off-ramp from that and say that a lot of the people in the value chains should be technically everybody, because we are all consumers of these critical minerals. We all use them in ways that, even though we are not active consumers, we are passive in the sense that it is embedded in the technology that we use every day. We do not see ourselves as players in the value chain, so it becomes a situation where we think of it from a policy standpoint, we think of it from a governmental standpoint, but even we as daily, everyday consumers are members of the value chain. But I would say a lot of times it tends to be those people in charge of refinement rather than those who are in the space of extraction. So then that leaves African voices, who are mainly where the resources are extracted from, to simply be a primary source, but not a person who is considered in the value chain as being as important as the refiner or the consumer.
Any African voices that are audible in this space? You have 8 seconds.
I would say the African voices that are audible are all of them that are participating, such as Zimbabwe making rules like saying Chinese mines need to reapply. There are multiple countries where there's mining happening, where people are actually participating and rising up to say that they wish to be in the value chain and to be valued.
Thank you very much, Valerie. We move on to our next discussant, Emily Oliphant. One of these mics is... Yeah, so... Yeah. Now, Dr. Emily. Yeah, most parts of Africa have sunlight for more than 8 or 9 months of the year, yet we have countries that experience 6 months of winter producing more solar energy and clean energy than these African countries that enjoy, some of them, 12 straight months of sunlight in a year. Where do you see the role of African governments in accelerating the transition towards clean energy?
I think the African government need to embrace renewable energy. And what I've seen is that we meet up in conferences and we ponder on solar and wind, but one special vector that you missed is green hydrogen. And I think we should collectively embrace all these clean energy solutions. And before talking about solutions, I think we also need to focus on the barriers as well. Solar, bioenergy, green hydrogen, all of them have barriers. But the key question is, what are we doing to overcome these barriers? And I don't think this is a question that we only need to ask the government, but we as key stakeholders, we also need to take part, collaborate, and find ways to overcome these barriers. I mean, we do have financial barriers, infrastructure limitations, and regulatory gaps, which are quite common. But when you look at green hydrogen, I'm going to reference South Africa. South Africa has announced 24 projects, of which half of them are now priority projects. However, South Africa is struggling with water requirements. Now, what can we do to overcome that? And I'm just gonna track back to saying, once we identify a problem, we also have to come up with a practical solution. So to give you a practical solution in terms of water requirements in South Africa, in terms of green hydrogen, South Africa is a coastal area. So we ask ourselves, since green hydrogen has a problem with water, what is something that we can do? We can use seawater, but then seawater has its own challenges because the process will incur additional costs in terms of demineralization or for producing the green hydrogen. So what the government can do as well is to look at the how to aid sectors and what can you do. So the government need to also look at how to abate sectors as well as using these clean solutions to increase the electrification of the continent, because although we do have fossil fuels, we are not saying that we need to leapfrog towards using clean energy solutions, but we can embrace energy mix as well.
All right. So allow me to cut you short a little bit and interject with another question. What do you think is the state of technical research in energy? Not academic research. I know in some places they can be synonymous, but we've seen a lot of focus on academic papers that talk about the state of energy, but how well are we doing in terms of technical research in the space of energy?
I think this also boils down to financial limitations. I don't think Africa is investing enough in research and development. And I like to give practical examples, and I always resort to green hydrogen because that is my area of expertise. I'm going to say that we need to invest more in research and development because that can assist us in terms of reducing the cost of these technology machineries and infrastructure. And we also need to look at where we can penetrate the value chain.
Key opportunities. Time is running out.
Okay, just to give you another an example, South Africa has an abundance of iridium and platinum. So when it comes to electrolyzer production, this is where we can penetrate the green hydrogen value chain by producing various components that require these minerals instead of shipping all these electrolyzers from China, while we do have the minerals that we can use to produce